Alright guys, I thought I'd just do a quick run through of how to do drum kit notation in Sibelius for your arrangements. Now I know I've gone over this in class and I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about how to do this because it's something that's a little bit different. So I thought I'd just go through it with you so you can hopefully get your arrangements done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do the P.A.S standard drum notation in Sibelius. Now I'm using Sibelius 7, but the process is exactly the same for Sibelius 6. So remembering with the P.A.S standard that if you play it with your hands, the stems go up. If you play it with your feet, the stems go down. So what we're going to do with Sibelius is we're going to be using two different voices for the hands and the feet. So the voices can be selected down here in your keypad, see numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4. Voice 1, stems by default go up. Voice 2, stems by default go down. Think of it very similar like when we do the Bach chorales in sightseeing. We've got the soprano line going up and the alto line going down. The same with the tenor and the bass. So we're going to do the hi-hats and snare in voice 1 and the kick drum in voice 2. So let's start by, this is the way that I do it, and I find it's the quickest and simplest way to get a basic drum beat into Sibelius. So the first thing I'm going to do is the hi-hat, being the most regular part. So what I'm going to do, I've got my score with the drum set. Now you will obviously have more instruments here, but it's very easy to do. We've gone through that in class. So I'm going to select my quaver value with my mouse, or I could do that with the keypad by pressing the number 3. I'm going to go up here and click where my hi-hat goes. And we get a note. Now that note is a solid note head. We want to change that to a cross, remembering that a cross is for cymbals, solid note head is for a drum. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press escape and make sure my note is selected. Then I'm going to press Alt, Shift and the number 1. Now if you hold down Alt, Shift and go through numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 0, you can see that the note head changes, and so you can use number 4 for if you want to put in slash notation or anything like that, but for the moment we're going to use number 1, which is the cross. So once I've made my single cross quaver, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the letter R, and that simply repeats whatever is selected. So I'm going to press R and give myself a full bar of quavers. Okay. Now I'm going to want my snare on beats 2 and 4. So as I was saying, sorry for the interruption, I'm going to go back and place my snare drum in beats 2 and 4. So I move my cursor with my arrows, or I can use my mouse to select the beat that I want. And remember, if we press the numbers above the letters, not the keypad, but the numbers above the letters, usually that gives us a note at the interval above the selected note. So for example, if I press 5, it will give me a diatonic, or usually a perfect fifth, above the note that I've selected. So if I press 5, I would get a fifth above that. I don't want that, so I'm going to press undo or Control Z, Apple Z on a Mac. If I hold down Shift and press a number, let's say 5, I get a fifth below the selected note, which happens to be the same space that the snare is on. Okay, now you may have heard a rim shot there. That's because we've got a cross. We want to change that back to a solid note head. So remember our shortcut, which is Alt Shift and then press the number 0, and we have our snare. Now we can do the same process on beat 4. So remember, Shift 5, a fifth below the selected note, and then Alt Shift 0. Okay, now let's have a listen back to that. Here we go. We get the sound that we want. Now we're missing the kick drum. But remember, kick drum or the bass lives on a different voice than our stuff that we play with our hands. So make sure you've got nothing selected by pressing escape twice. If you still have things selected and you select voice 2 down here, whatever is selected will be moved into voice 2 and your score will go a little bit crazy. So make sure you press escape twice to deselect anything. Okay, so now that we haven't got anything selected, we click voice 2 and you'll notice that once you select a note, all of a sudden your cursor is green and that indicates that you're entering into voice 2. Now don't worry, it looks like the stem's going to go up. As soon as you put in a note, it will recognize that you've already put things in on voice 1 and it will automatically flip the stems. Watch what happens. If I put a kick in, all of a sudden everything flips and everything's fine. Okay, so let's go and put in our kick. Beautiful. Okay, if I now play that, I get, that's a basic rock beat. Okay, now to paste that in, you might think, oh, that's going to take you forever. Remember the shortcut R, which means repeat anything that's selected into the next available space. So if I select my bar and I press R, I'm going to repeat that bar. Now if I select both bars by selecting anywhere within the bar that's not a note, holding down shift and selecting the next bar, we've got 2 bars selected, and then I press R again, we're now copying and pasting 2 bars at a time. Okay? So yeah, like I said, plan your basic beat, whatever pattern it is, and then copy it through the whole arrangement. And then once you've got that sort of in place, then you can go back and edit those bars that you need to, be it for a fill or a crash into the start of the chorus or whatever you like. That's the way I would go about it. So don't worry if this seems like a lot of information. It is a little bit tricky, but at first it's tricky, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's just a few little shortcuts to remember. Write them down on a piece of paper, and the way to get better at it is just to practice it. Okay, good luck.